Hey everyone, U.S. immigration lawyer Michael Ashoori here. And in today's video, I'm going to do something a little bit different, and I want to share with you the story of how I became an immigration lawyer. So I haven't really rehearsed it, but I'm just going to kind of go with the flow. So basically, I grew up as the first generation American born in my family. So I was born to immigrant parents, and growing up, there was only two options. I could either be a lawyer or a doctor. And so those were my two choices. And growing up, I thought I was going to be a doctor. Even as late as college, I thought I was going to be a doctor. But I noticed that as I was taking my pre-med courses, I just didn't have the same passion for it as I did when I would think about the possibility of being an attorney. So late into my college, I decided to switch and become pre-law. So fast forward, I'm in law school, and when I'm in law school, I have absolutely no intention of being an immigration attorney. It was not even on my radar. I was actually considering perhaps being some sort of a litigation attorney, or maybe doing some sort of like transactional work, like being a real estate attorney. Those were kind of where my mind was at. I never thought I would be an immigration lawyer. But what ended up happening was, during law school, one of the requirements was that you had to write a paper. You had to write a paper, and you were free to choose the topic, but there was like various requirements in place. And for me, I ended up deciding to write a paper on something called EB-5. EB-5 is an immigrant investor visa program. So it has to do with immigration law, but it's also very business oriented. And my inclination, what drew me to writing a paper on EB-5 was that I was very into business related stuff. So EB-5 is this program where immigrants can invest in a U.S. business, and based on making an investment, they can live in the United States and they can operate a business in the U.S. And they can get a green card. So I was very interested in that because, again, I was very interested in business, and specifically for this paper, I was going to write about how immigrants can use EB-5 to fund real estate projects. I was very interested in business and real estate. So I start writing this paper, and I decide that I need to interview an EB-5 lawyer for this paper. So I go to Google and I type EB-5 lawyer near me or something like that. And a result comes up for an attorney that was very close to me. And it turns out that he was a very prominent EB-5 attorney. So I just reached out to him via email. I sent him a cold email and I was like, "Hi, can I interview you for this paper that I have?" And he said, "Sure." So I go in, I interview him, and it was fascinating. I wrote my paper, and still it was totally off my radar to ever be an immigration lawyer. It was just an interesting experience interviewing this lawyer and finding out more about EB-5. But again, I was totally not considering being an immigration lawyer at the time. Fast forward, I graduate law school, I pass the bar, and I start working at a law firm. And the law firm that I was working at was an insurance defense firm. So I was basically defending insurance companies who were representing employers. Without getting into too much detail, basically people that would get injured at work would file claims, and I was representing the employers. I was specifically representing insurance companies that were defending employers. I was representing insurance companies to basically fight back against these claims made against workers. And I remember I was working in that field. It just didn't feel like something that I connected with a lot. I vividly remember one instance where I was in a deposition. A deposition is like an interview where you're asking questions to whoever your witness is. And I was doing a deposition, and I remember I was asking the witness questions, and she started crying. And it broke my heart. And I knew I couldn't do this. So I remember after that deposition, I left the room. I immediately called my dad, and I was like, "Dad, I can't do this. I have to quit." So within a few months, I quit. I quit my job without any plan, without any sort of idea of what I was going to do. And, so I started thinking, what could I do? And I remembered that time that I interviewed that lawyer in law school. So I reached back out to him and I'm like, "Hey, can we have a meeting? I want to talk to you about a couple of things." So he's like, "Sure." So we set up a meeting, and I go to the meeting, and my idea was just to get a sense of, how he liked being an immigration lawyer. And And so I asked him various questions about how he enjoyed his job, what was his day-to-day like, stuff like that. And it was very positive overall. You know, he talked about the fact that his job primarily centered on, you know, helping people with such an important aspect of their life. He was helping people immigrate to the United States to secure their future in the United States, and I was fascinated. And, you know, contrary to what I was doing before, where I was, you know, part of my job involved really, you know, there being a clear winner and a clear loser. You know, oftentimes in my old job, it was a situation where if one person won, it meant the other person was losing. And when I was interviewing this immigration attorney, it was totally different. It was a win-win. You know, you were helping your client come to the United States and reach their dreams. And oftentimes, you know, that person that was coming to the United States was going to do big things in the United States, was going to start a business in the United States, or they were going to bring their expertise with whatever they were doing to bring it to the United States and benefit the country as well. So I was fascinated by that idea that if everything was done correctly, everyone was going to win. There was not going to be any crying, or if there was going to be crying, it was going to be tears of joy. So I was fascinated. And, you know, by the end of that conversation, I asked him, I said, look, I don't know anything about immigration law, but can I just shadow you? Can I learn from you? I don't want to get paid anything. I just want to learn. And he said, sure. So I started going into his office and just shadowing him, learning as much as I could about immigration law. And I did that for several months, and I learned all about U.S. immigration law. I read books. Everything. I was just a sponge, soaking up as much as I could about how U.S. immigration law worked. And it was great because I was learning from truly an expert. And I did that for a certain long period of time. And from there, I started taking on my own cases and learning more and more and helping my clients. And I still to this day remember my very first client. He was a TN visa case where he was a citizen of Canada and he applied for his TN visa. And I remember how exciting it was to work back and forth with him, strategizing with him on how we were going to get his case approved. And I still remember to this day when the case got approved and I got to call him and give him the good news that, look, you got your TN visa approved. And just hearing the relief and the joy in his voice when he found out that his case was approved, there's really nothing like that. It's truly a very special feeling to be able to help your clients. And I'm kind of rambling at this point, but I will tell you that becoming an immigration lawyer wasn't planned, but it's been an extreme, it's always been a blessing. It's been a tremendous blessing being in this field. And, oftentimes, people will ask me, how did it happen? And I always say that it's a big, big, big blessing to be an immigration lawyer, to be in this field. Because like I said, if you do your job correctly, everyone wins. Your clients are thrilled when their case gets approved. You get to be in an industry where you're helping people. There's no tears, there's no crying. It's really special. So I won't ramble anymore. That's my story of how I became an immigration lawyer several years ago, and I'm very grateful for it. So yeah, thanks so much for listening. As always, more videos to come.